Hello and welcome to Fred on Film with me, Fred Asquith, as represented by the @Fred Asquith on Film TikTok and Instagram accounts. You can also watch on YouTube, listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to consume this. The @Fred Asquith on Film Instagram account is now it. Wow, I went really Yorkshire then. It's now hit 10k followers. Do you know, I wish I could talk a bit more Yorkshire, but I put my t at the end of the T words and the h at the start of the h words so that it's like a universal English language. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's hit 10k followers @Fred Asquith on Film on Instagram. I'm absolutely buzzing about this. I hit 10k followers on my personal @Fred Asquith account a good while ago, but I'm getting the buzz all over again. The buzz of building a community with something that I feel passionate about. Thanks so much for following. I'm really, really excited. Next step, 11k. Am I right? So this week we're going to talk about Bond, Alien Earth, Love is Blind, the worst screenings that I've been to, and for listeners who listen to my Bring Her Back review will know that that means something. Screening as in behaviour-wise, worst as in, sorry. Fuck. Do you know what? Forget it. And then also going to talk about the Materialists, that I saw and I'm going to review. So let's get cracking. I think that's all the housekeeping. So I've been rewatching the Daniel Craig Bond films, and I just wanted to preserve that fact on the podcast. So me and my darling wife, I said, darling, would you like to watch Casino Royale with me this Sunday? And we watched Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace on one Sunday. What a Sunday! And the intention was there because we actually started Skyfall to watch Skyfall as well on the same day. We ended up taking that up to bed. We sometimes put a film on when we... that sounded a bit suggestive. No, we put a film on when we go to sleep, me and my darling wife. And so we put Skyfall on and we obviously just fell asleep. Anyway, we finished Skyfall the following night. So... I'm now 3 in on Daniel Craig's 5. I might pretend that Spectre and No Time to Die don't exist. But anyway, my ranking remains the same. That is my top 3, just in the wrong order. It's 1, Skyfall, 2, Casino Royale, 3, Quantum of Solace. My reviews are up there on Letterboxd if you'd like to hear more detail on that. My main takeaway, though, is that the whole Vesper storyline in Casino Royale is brilliant because it's an origin story for Bond, and we're setting him up as someone who... due to the loss of someone that he genuinely loved and who betrayed him, he then turns into this like cold, seedy womanizer who doesn't want anything to do with love, hitman kind of guy. But then we're supposed to believe that he falls in love with Leia Seydoux, Inspector, and then has a kid, and we kind of go through the love arc again in No Time to Die in order to justify his spoiler ultimate demise. That just doesn't sit right with me. It just feels like the Daniel Craig era was so brilliant and yet had so little direction because, like I say, they recycle this love arc and I just don't believe it. The chemistry's not there between the actors. I don't believe it at all. And then also they recycle the old dog, new tricks kind of vibe. So as early as Skyfall... they're making out as if Bond is old and past it and we don't need blah, blah, blah. Well, sometimes a trigger has to be pulled, as Q says in Skyfall. Like, he's this like archaic relic of espionage. And then they kind of try and pull the same Inspector, and again Inspector, or is it No Time to Die? Again, he comes back from the brink from some like far-flung Caribbean hideout. And like the stories from Skyfall to No Time to Die just feel recycled to me, and it feels like negligent to what was a special era and negligent to Daniel Craig, and probably just down to the fact that Daniel Craig kept saying he wanted to fucking quit, and then not quitting, so they had to kind of be like, oh shit, well I guess we got to kind of revive and then finish this arc again. Anyway, so I also want to just have a quick note on Alien Earth, which is the Alien spin-off. Is it even a spin-off? It feels like central canon Alien, to be honest. Series that is now streaming on Disney+. It's created by the guy who created Legion, the series, and also Fargo, the original like from season 1, like the Martin Freeman, Billy Bob Thornton, which I was a big fan of. So I guess he's got a track record of like taking IP and turning it into something really respectable. Anyway, I don't want to review this because I've literally watched the first 20 minutes with my breakfast. Like I didn't have time to watch any more this morning. But like I heard some really positive murmurings about it. I was like, oh, I'll give it a go because I really liked Alien Romulus. Anyway, the first 20 minutes are just fucking incredible. Just aesthetically. If you're a fan of Alien, and Aliens, but if you're a fan of Alien, go and watch this first 20 minutes and tell me that it is not the best loving, not hacky, but loving rendition of the aesthetic of Alien that you've ever seen or could ever imagine. I actually didn't believe that it was possible to capture that essence so well again in the modern era, but they have. It feels timeless because it feels so close aesthetically to that Alien original. Again, that's just the first 20 minutes, but I'm already just like so stoked. I'm already impressed. So I'm excited to watch more of Alien Earth. Another note there's a new series of Love is Blind UK on Netflix. And yeah, we don't just discuss lofty, artful things on this podcast. Sip of my tea. We also discuss the bottom feeder bullshit, because I am not above that. I watched the entire season of Love Island this year, and I fucking loved it, by the way. My darling wife is really into reality TV. I'm not making out that like that's an excuse, like, oh, I watch it because she puts it on. Like, I fucking love this shit, right? Sometimes you just want to switch your brain off, as the Happy Gilmore 2 lovers would say. But that's another argument. So we started Love is Blind UK. We watched episode 1. And the only thing I have to say about it is that I find the structure of Love is Blind in comparison to Love Island extremely annoying, because you can see that there's like 16 blokes and 16 women, and yet you only get introduced to like 3 per episode, and then 3 couples. And then by the end, sometimes you may not have even ever seen like one person or a couple, because obviously editorially they know that they may not get anywhere or whatever. But so by the end of the kind of meeting stage, you might have only seen like, I don't know, 6 couples, right? But there might be a remaining 4 couples that are just like never seen. And I'm exaggerating, but the point is that you're always seeing these people wandering around the mess area and stuff. And you're like, who the fuck is that? Who are they talking? Who is this? Like, I want to know all the stories. You know, like in Love Island, because it's essentially like live, they're telling the story day by day. Editorially, they don't know what's going to be important in like 1 week's time. So they give each couple their like breathing room. And in Love is Blind, they don't do that because they know where the couples are going. But in my opinion, that cheats the audience out of the like journey almost, because it's just spoon feeding us shit. And then also because it often initiates a couple and then takes a couple to their conclusion, like a proposal, before we've even met anyone else. So like there's one particular couple that they've already proposed, and that's not because they proposed super early or earlier than anyone else. That's because editorially they've chosen to package that relationship in the first 2 episodes, and then we'll move on to another relationship and another one. And that's really frustrating as a viewer, because you feel like the journey is not tracked enough. You know, like, again, Love Island it's filmed in a different format, but you know, like you'll see the relationships develop concurrently, and then you'll have a recoupling, and then you'll have a dumping, and then you'll have a recoupling it. And so the journey is linear. Watching Love is Blind is like watching Love Island directed by Quentin Tarantino or Chris Nolan. It's like fucking time jumps. It's like fucking Tenet. For fucking like TV reality shows. It's like I'm trying to like remember, like, oh, okay, so we're actually going back to they've only just met now, even though I've just seen a proposal from someone else that was probably 3 weeks later. Like it just annoys me that they don't edit it linearly. Anyway, I'll keep watching. Absolute bullshit, but I'll keep watching. Now moving on to really, really badly behaved screenings. Sipping my tea. This is... I can't believe I'm talking about this again. So, listeners of this pod will know, going back to my review of Bring Her Back, that I loved Bring Her Back so much that I managed to forget about the worst cinema screening, the worst behaved cinema screening I'd ever attended, right? With like people on Snapchat next to me, people on Snapchat all over the, like people getting their phones out all over the cinema, people talking really loudly next to me. Anyway, I've had 2 more experiences not dissimilar to this since then. So it's only been a couple of weeks since then. I haven't really had many bad experiences before this Bring Her Back one. And I think because, again, long-time listeners will know that I'm like very particular about the screenings that I choose. And one of the criteria, obviously there's criteria about like seating and comfort and sound and whatever. But another criteria is like behavior of the audience. Like if you go to like a scratty Odeon that's maybe run down during the daytime, you're maybe going to get like loads of kids or whatever. I don't mind anyone going to the cinema. I'm not trying to like bemoan anyone being at the cinema. I'm just talking about the etiquette of the audience depending on the cinema branch and brand. So that type of screening is going to be a different behaved screening to like a Curzon or like an Everyman. Like you would expect certain brands to attract certain level of cinephile, and the higher level of cinephile you would expect there to be a higher level of etiquette. That's my assumption. Anyway, so I've been dabbling in different cinemas recently because I'd really like to kind of like experience more spaces and like add to my spreadsheet of like my favorite cinemas and where to sit. Again, long-time listeners will know. And so anyway, without naming any names, I've been to 2 screenings that were fucking diabolical. Like what is this? A week? Can you like put in like comments or DM me or something? Like, is this something that we're all experiencing like quite a lot, right? As cinema lovers, we're experiencing the degradation of cinema etiquette, which is such a shame because like I don't just want to go to cinephile screenings that are just dead silent. Like that's not always preferable to me. Like it's preferable if I was to go see, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but like the new Noah Baumbach. Like I went to see Marriage Story at a Curzon on purpose because I knew that the etiquette was going to be good. It was going to be quite a quiet movie and blah, blah, blah. But then equally, I went to rewatch Weapons, and which I'm going to come on to talk about, and I went to a screening that was like more kind of in the daytime. I knew it would be more like friends and whatever there, and I knew it was a View cinema, so I knew it would be like more of a general audience, and the etiquette was diabolical. It was diabolical, like even just people being ignorant about like how loud they're being with their food, which is like a bargain basement etiquette thing, but you can kind of let that one go. Just like a woman getting out her phone right next to me. A woman got out her phone right next to me and seemingly was checking the brightness, but then kept the phone open for about a minute, not actually doing anything on the screen. Like I couldn't see her doing anything on the phone. I was like, what are you looking at? You're just blaring the phone light into the cinema. Someone went on Snapchat on the front row. I've written all this down. Someone was, right, so this cinema was chock full. Someone was 5 minutes late. Fine, we've all been late to a screening. And sometimes people like to turn up right as the trailers finish. I understand that to a certain extent. Sometimes you can mistime that. I do think, though, just a shout out to the people who don't want to sit and watch the trailers. That's your prerogative. But try to time it better, right? Because I sometimes want to do that, but if you think the trailers are going to be 25 minutes, turn up 20 minutes, right? Turn up at 20 minutes, because it's actually you're elevating your own cinema experience by like walking in right as the title card comes up, but you're actually fucking it up for other people because as soon as the title card comes up, it's a sacred space, in my opinion. Like, even as soon as the turn your phones off thing has happened in the cinema, that's a sacred space. And for you to just like prioritize yourself and turn up in those quiet moments, I think just ruins the ennui of like what's about to happen. Anyway, and that can then be extended to people can time it wrong, and someone turned up 5 minutes late to this screening. Who knows why? I let them off for the aforementioned reasons. And then someone turned, I can't remember if it was two people together or whatever. I've written it down though. Turned up 10 minutes late. Obviously wrote all this down after. Wasn't getting my phone out being like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Someone turned up 10 minutes late. And I was like, wow, that's fucking late. Like by that point, you've actually missed the whole setup of the film, especially in weapons. And you're having to budge past people and whatever. Anyway, and then I was like, right, well, that's done. It wasn't. Someone turned up 15 minutes late. By the way, not to the screening time. I can't remember. It was, so let's say, I think it was 12:30, the screening time, right? Which means that the film was going to start after trailers at about 12:50. 12:55 if you wanted to push it, but it was 12:50, right? So I went in about 12:45. So this wasn't someone turning up at 12:45, like 15 minutes late to the screening time. This was someone turning up 15 minutes late to the film. So this was someone coming in at 1:05 with the screening time at 12:30. They're coming in at 1:05. That's like not even allowing yourself to engage with the film level of lateness. Like, never mind ruining everyone else's experience. Anyway, obviously it's dark. Obviously they come in and they check their seat on their phone once they're inside. Do it, obviously do that outside. Like, it's the ignorance of, like, everyone else's experience that fucking gets to me. I'm like, if I'm in that situation, I'm genuinely late, I'm so embarrassed. And I'm like, I'll check my phone outside. I'll even, like, if I have snacks, which I probably wouldn't in that situation, but I'd sort them out outside. I'd put my coat in my bag outside. So then when I go in, I know what seat I'm going to, and I sit down and I'm completely quiet because I don't want to disturb anyone because I'm the dickhead, right? This person comes in with popcorn. So they've obviously waited at the counter, knowing the fact that they're late. They've come in, they get their phone out to check their seat, and then they turn their phone light on to in order to get past everyone's feet and find their seat. This wasn't someone who had mobility issues. This wasn't an old person. He looked about like 19 or something, and he was on his own. And he got his phone light on, just disturbing everyone, sits down, starts snaffling his popcorn so loud. And there was people talking about the plot around me. There's people like just coughing endlessly, which I know you can't help, but it's just so annoying. There was two chatty people right behind me on the row behind me. I swear I'm so unlucky with this stuff. Like really chatting. And I'm talking chatting all the way through. And sometimes I wonder if I'm a bit like sensitive to this. But like my wife was like, can you hear them? It's so annoying. And I was like, okay, well, my wife's pretty like chill with a lot of things. Like if she's hearing it, then this is definitely a thing. Chatting. And they got shushed. I shushed them. Like I went out, I did a nice strong shh like that, right? But quick enough so they couldn't tell where it was coming from. Because I don't want to start a fight in the cinema. Anyway, and then they carried on. This was going on for like over an hour. Then they got shushed again from behind them. So 2 rows behind me, and they still didn't stop. I shushed them again quite quickly after that because they still wouldn't stop. So this is, well, honestly, borderline ruining the entire film at this point. Once me and the guy behind them started shushing concurrently, he decided to say something, and he didn't say it in a very gentle way. He leant over, and I could only just hear this, obviously. He leant over and said, "Excuse me, could you stop talking?" And they went, "What?" And he said, "Could you shut up?" Like that, which to be fair is like straight down the line. That's exactly what we wanted them to do. But I guess there are like nicer ways to say it. You could have said, "Would you mind stop talking, please, because you're disturbing me," or something like that. Anyway, so they told him to fuck off, and they carried on talking. Lovely. I just can't believe the level of cinema etiquette and how far it is degraded. And I'm not a chin stroker about this. Like, I want to go to horror movies and hear people yelp and gasp. I want to go to comedies and hear people laugh. I want to go to a romance movie and hear people sniffle and cry. It's usually me. But there's levels to this, right? Sipping my tea. So Materialists has been out in the US for 19,000 years. A24 need to sort themselves out. everyone all the companies need to sort themselves out. This is happening with Eddington, Bring Her Back, Materialists. There are multiple films that have been released early in the US this year and then released too late. And then released later in the UK. I do wonder in the case of Eddington and Materialists if it's like a Pedro Pascal scheduling issue, but I'm like, well, one of the dominoes got to fall first, because like if you're scheduling it correctly in America, then surely the same schedule, is it schedule or schedule, would be fine in the UK. So someone's moved something, right? And anyway, it just fucks me off. It really fucks me off, because I've had to avoid reviews of this for fucking ages. So that I'm gonna have a sip of my tea before I start this review proper. So the headline here is, I don't hate this movie. I'm just disappointed. I think when I criticize a film, I can sometimes come across like very binary. Like, I absolutely fucking love it or I absolutely fucking hate it. I understand that I do that, and I can't change that, right? That is me. That's just the way I speak. But I want you to know that my like summarized opinion is more nuanced than I think I show on this program. I'm going to try and work on that. But I just want to say up front, I don't hate this movie. I'm just disappointed. And I think you might see that I'm like maybe getting a bit like ratty about some of my criticism for this film. But it's coming from a place of disappointment. It's coming from a place of like, I really wanted to like this, right? I was really excited for a new rom-com. Maybe my expectations were incorrect. The trailer definitely showed it off to be a new rom-com. Celine Song herself has described it in an interview with the Pulp Kitchen guys as a rom-com. So I'm like, okay, maybe my expectations were incorrect, but at the same time, that seems to be the intention. I'm open to anything rom-com, romantic, dramatic. I love these types of movies. I'm a big fan of the Before trilogy. I'm a big fan of Nancy Meyers, Nora Ephron, Jerry Maguire, I Pretty Woman. Like I love the genre, right? And this is all in reference to those films. But this is not a rom-com, and it doesn't seem to be any genre at all. It's just a. I was like, what genre is this? And I was like, oh yeah, it's just a. It's a nothing burger that's struggling to reconcile its own themes, which I'll try and come on to. And the themes are wealth and love and marriage. So this is Dakota Johnson plays a kind of a dating, what do they call it? A matchmaker, sorry. And a matchmaker who is single. So she's a matchmaker in New York, and her job is to put couples together, clients as she calls them, and hopefully find a match made in heaven, and then they get married. So her character has been responsible for 9 marriages, right? They say at the start of this film. It's a cool job. Don't know if it exists. Would be quite fun if it did exist. Anyway, she's single. And in the course of one night, she gets, wooed by Pedro Pascal, or attempted to be wooed by Pedro Pascal, a very, 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 very rich, very handsome, specifically over 6 foot, which they mention in the film, because that's like a Materialists title reference thing, height. Within the same night, that happens, and she also bumps into Chris Evans, her ex. We come to find her ex, who is serving as a waiter at this particular wedding that she's attending. So it's a love triangle, really, between Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans. One, showcasing themselves as like a unicorn, rich, intelligent, tall, dark, brooding, handsome guy. Pedro Pascal, versus the kind of like slightly toxic ex, well, more than slightly toxic ex, who is not as wealthy and who maybe doesn't have as many prospects and has a lot of problems in his own life. So the problem with a key problem with this is that it's not a compelling love triangle in the sense that I don't want either relationship to succeed. A few reasons for that. One, neither relationship is actually based on good morals or values, in my opinion. The film is trying to tell us that, I'm going to spoil this movie, by the way. If you don't want to know anything about this movie, please turn off now, okay? the film is trying to tell us that like wealth isn't everything, and she ends up with Chris Evans at the end because like, oh, love matters more than wealth. The problem is that the relationship with Chris Evans is actually not very compelling. It doesn't feel very romantic. It doesn't feel very true, or rich or full or like emotional. It is kind of like a toxic ex relationship, and they do one flashback to that relationship where they're arguing, and we actually don't really see much of the lightness of this relationship until the end, and even then it's not that really strong of a chemistry or connection. And the relationship with Pedro Pascal is based a lot on her like love for materialism and wealth and whatever. And maybe they don't connect very well. But like, either way, I'm not really rooting for either relationship. But crucially, the relationship she ends up in with Chris Evans is not one that I believe in whatsoever. Like, she's Celine Song, the director who directed Past Lives, which was a really accomplished, like, I don't even know if it was a debut, but it was like almost like a breakout movie, a romance movie. That felt like a really tactile and patient and interesting insight into like married life. This feels like it's really surface level, like really like not insightful at all. Like this message of like wealth isn't everything is such a basic message, and you might be like, okay, well, maybe that was her intention. It's called the Materialists for a reason, and maybe this character, Dakota Johnson's character, that was her journey, was to find out that materialism isn't as important as love. Yeah, fine, but it's not explored correctly because I don't even believe the love part of it. I actually believe that with Pedro Pascal, she'd be settling in terms of her values. With Chris Evans, from a wealth point of view, with Chris Evans, she'd also be settling emotionally because from what we see in this movie, they actually don't have that strong of a connection, and certainly that not romantic of a connection. Show me why they're in love. Like, don't just give me a flashback of them arguing. Show me why they're in love and how they're in love, because I just don't believe it. Also, kind of Pedro Pascal, that was supposed to be kind of the materialist relationship, like Dakota Johnson's interested in because he's rich. Is he really that bad? Like, he actually seems quite nice. Like, forget the wealth. I mean, like, he seems like a nice dude. He seems like intelligent and like not superficial, and he does have some depth to him, and he maybe is a unicorn. Like, they describe him as a unicorn in the film because he's got everything. But honestly, take the wealth out of it, take the wealth out of the equation of this movie, I honestly think the chemistry and the relationship was better with Pedro Pascal. So I don't know what I'm supposed to learn from that. Like, there's a point where on a date with Pedro Pascal where she calls herself worthless. She says, I'm worthless. Why are you dating me? And I've written down that it's not a very empowering movie in that sense. And like, you could argue that scene comes about a third or halfway through the film, and maybe she finds empowerment later in the film by choosing Chris Evans and not choosing the wealth, right? I don't think the film ever reconciles a sense of empowerment of the Dakota Johnson character. I think we actually just see her settle with Chris Evans, a toxic ex-relationship that wasn't good for her, and that's not empowering whatsoever. And actually, in the date scene that she says to Pedro, I'm worthless, Pedro's response is actually really, really caring and thoughtful and intelligent. He is actually trying to empower her. He says, like, I'm not looking for someone with money. Like, I'm looking for someone who I respect, someone who I can share a life with, someone who, like, all these really good values and good reasons to be with someone. And I understand that the film's trying to tell me that Dakota Johnson can't recognize that in that moment because she hasn't learned what she's about to learn. But once that is reconciled, why is Pedro Pascal not the better option? Because like, he clearly was more emotionally intelligent, had more emotional depth, and was more in tune with the values that she may come to aspire to once she's learned the lesson of the film. I hope I'm making sense. So it's actually a promotion of toxicity, getting back with Chris Evans. So this message of materialism, it's okay to love someone who is quote unquote broke. That's a term they use in this film, by the way. It's not a term that I would use. It's okay to love someone who is quote unquote broke. It's basic. It's not washing for me, because actually, given my opinion on the preferred relationship being Pedro for a non-wealth reason, a better message. There's two better messages for this film, and this is in the context of the film. So if the Chris Evans relationship was more fulfilling, in my opinion, emotionally, then that would be fine, but still quite a basic message. I think a more interesting message would be, oh, I've realised that it's not about Chris Evans is poor, so I don't want him, or Pedro Pascal is rich, so I do want him. It's not about either of those things. It's actually about empowering myself and finding my own values and going back on the dating scene from a healthy point of view. Not going back with my toxic ex, regardless of his wealth, and not going with Pedro Pascal, regardless of his wealth, because I don't feel a connection with him. That, to me, would be a really, really powerful ending. Would be like do you know what? It's actually neither of you. It's almost like the Rocky 1 ending, right? It's like he doesn't win. Like, okay, I've won in my own way. I've won because I've found what values I do want to take forward into my dating life. That, to me, would be a stronger message on the lack of importance of materialism in relationships. Or, if you do want Dakota Johnson's character to end up with someone, Celine's song, then I actually think it would be a stronger message for her to end up with Pedro Pascal, because he, like I said, professes or displays more emotional intelligence and a deeper connection with Dakota Johnson than Chris Evans does at certain points. So I'm like, maybe a stronger message would be materialism isn't everything, and once you actually scratch beneath the surface of these surface level values of materialism, you find that there is actually a person there in and amongst the incredible bookshelves in the penthouse apartment and the wonderful oak furniture. There is actually a person there who is a person just like everyone else, regardless of wealth. And maybe I do love that person, right? It would be more interesting to me to see Dakota Johnson's character deconstruct the importance of wealth whilst with a wealthy person. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, initially attracted to someone because of their wealth, but then actually coming to realize that they're falling in love with a human and not their money. That, to me, is a more interesting message of wealth. But instead, we have a basic conclusion, which is that, wealth isn't important, so I'm going to get with the quote-unquote broke guy, which actually doesn't even wash, because the relationship with the broke guy isn't even that good. So I'm just like, okay, so this is not empowering. Like I say, she's just settled. She's actually just settled. And nothing to do with the wealth side of it. She's just settled emotionally for a toxic ex. I really didn't like that. And the film applauds her for settling, in a way, emotionally again. I want to be clear that it's emotionally, not financially settling. And Celine Song has been seen it and been very eloquent in interviews talking about toxic attitudes towards quote unquote poor people or broke people, and that's the message she's trying to explore in this film. Well, it's not communicated correctly, in my opinion. In fact, it's actually really fumbled, in my opinion. And also, do you know a weird twist to this at the end? So Chris Evans' character is like I say, supposed to be like poor, and I hate that word. I'm only using that word because Celine Song's using that word, right? And because they use it in the film too. But at the end, he says, when they get together, he says, "Oh, I'll start accepting commercial work. You know, I'm sorry, I'll start accepting commercial work." He's an actor, right? So the insinuation is, which I don't think we'd seen or heard at any point in the film, the insinuation is that he hadn't been accepting work, right? So then it's actually like a weird, like, pulls the rug out from under the message even more of like, he's actually not poor. He's voluntarily not accepting income from a position of like what's supposed to be a position of squalor in central New York, right? In a flat. And I'm like, this isn't poverty. This isn't squalor. People are really, really struggling. And you're trying to teach me a lesson about the superficialness of wealth through the prism of a person, of a character who is superficially poor. He's not actually poor. He's chosen to be poor because he's not accepting jobs in a career that he wants, in an arts career that he wants, an acting career. It's just such a weird line to put in. I'll start accepting commercial work. So that actually, it also pulls the rug out from under the themes even more, because that means she's not just emotionally settling for someone that's not right for her. She's also settling for someone who's not driven. That's the message I'm getting from that. And the message that I got from her character all the way through the film was that she really is driven and she's really good at her job. And she does value someone who has like corporate aspirations, professional aspirations, regardless of the wealth. The wealth on top of that for sure, but regardless of it too. And so she's actually got with someone who's, forget the money side of it, is actually just not a driven person. And I'm just like, once again, I'm just like, is this relationship even good for her? I don't think it is. So I knew that I was going to go on a bit of a rant about this because thematically I'm just completely at odds with this film, right? So I wrote a little list of what I like about this film. What do I like about this film? Well, I like the cinematography. I think it's beautifully shot. I actually didn't get the name of the cinematographer, but I think it's beautifully shot, and I think it has a kind of beautiful, again, timeless feel, even despite the fact that it's in modern New York with phones and fucking whatever. I like its intention to explore the functional aspects of a successful relationship. I'm interested in learning a point of view on like, okay, when you set aside the kind of the spark and the kind of like intangible connection between two people, what are the kind of functional aspects of a connection? Like mutual, like similar upbringing or similar politics or similar values in this and that way. That to me is an interesting discussion. That's actually like, you know, how much of a relationship is functional actually? How much of love is functional is a really interesting discussion, and I like its intention to explore that. I don't think it did it very well, but anyway, this is a list of things that I like. I like its patience. I think it's slow paced. I don't mind that. I like romance movies that have patience. I like that it's set in New York. It's very pretty. I miss RomComs set in New York. I Made in Manhattan, you know, Sex and the City, the whole fucking show. I miss that era, and I love that it's set in New York and it makes New York look beautiful. I can't wait to go back. I quite like Pedro Pascal's performance. I think that out of the three, he was the strongest for me, and I think because despite his stoicism and like whatever, the nature of his character, I think he's the one that I really could see under the surface of eventually, and was like, okay, I can see the heart at the center of this person in spite of his wealth, which I thought was going to be a more interesting message. Dakota Johnson's performance is good because it suits the character. Me and my wife went in saying, you know, we don't always like Dakota Johnson because she can come across like bland and detached. And if she's playing a character that's supposed to be full of life, then it doesn't quite work. For example, A Bigger Splash, the Luca Guadagnino movie, she's supposed to be like this bohemian, unattainable, beautiful, young, vivacious character who's full of life. She's absolutely terrible casting for that because she's absolutely not that, right? Whereas in this, she's supposed to, for the most part, be a materialist, corporate, quite detached from romance professional. That really suits her, to be honest. And so I think her performance is good because of that. But, you know, this movie is a nothing burger. And Dakota Johnson ultimately is the dry, tough meat inside this nothing burger. And Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans are the two dry, buns around the burger without a condiment or sauce on them whatsoever. So it is a nothing burger. I think a nothing burger is supposed to not have meat in it, but anyway, Dakota Johnson is the dry meat. I checked my watch about halfway through. That's not a very good sign. So let me just take a sip of my tea before I bring this one home. So the question is this a genreless movie? Celine's song describes it as a rom-com. The trailer looks like a rom-com. I think that this is actually not a rom-com. It's not a rom. It's not a com. It's not even a dram, right? It's not... I've written a little diatribe here. It's not funny enough to be Sex and the City. It's not romantic enough to be Jerry Maguire or Pretty Woman. It's not dramatic or interesting enough to hold my attention with a slow pace and interesting explorative conversations like Before Midnight. The characters aren't interesting enough for that either. There's not enough chemistry for it to be just like a kind of friendship, or sorry, not a friendship, but like an exploration of relationships in like When Harry Met Sally. The chemistry is not there. It wishes it was Nora Ephron. It wishes it was Nancy Myers. It wishes it was Something's Gotta Give, or It's Complicated, or like it's just not at that level. It's not anything. It's not funny. It's not romantic. It's not dramatic. It's a genreless movie, and a slow one at that. And so even though like aesthetically it's nice, and like principally or like theoretically watching beautiful people like stress about whether they should be with each other is kind of quite mildly engaging to watch, it's not good. It's not good. It's not a good... It does not... Did it do what it set out to do thematically? Absolutely not, on multiple levels, as discussed. My wife said it should have been on streaming when she came out. She was like, that should have been on Netflix at Christmas or something. And I was like, fuck. Do you know, I hate to say it, but maybe you're kind of right. Like, I want films to be released in cinemas, but I'm like, fuck. Maybe you are right. Maybe that is like such a nothing burger that it actually should have been on Netflix. It's crazy. So I don't hate this movie. I am just disappointed. I want rom-coms to be a thing again. And again, maybe this isn't a rom-com. My argument is that it's nothing. But the marketing was telling me that it was. The trailer told me that it was. And even Celine's song is saying that it is. But it's not. It's nothing. I want rom-coms to be a thing again. I want the genre to have a revival like horror has, and find a place in cinemas. So I want this to do well, which is why I've gone and paid for a ticket, and, you know, I didn't like it, whatever, it happens. But I just really hope that, like, financially this proves that at least it's viable. I hope enough people go see it to make it at least viable, to maybe try again. I haven't rated it on Letterboxd yet, but I think that I will give this probably like a 2 stars out of 5, like, or maybe 2.5 at a push. Probably 2. Maybe 1.5. I'm resting around that 2 level for now, but we'll see. I'm just not into it. So that's enough of that. I will never go over an hour. I told you that. I pledged you I'll never go over an hour. So next week we're coming back, and hopefully I'll be reviewing one or a few of Life of Chuck, Eddington, Thursday Murder Club, Sorry Baby. These are all films coming out in the next week. I also have a Caught Stealing screening. I think my screening of Caught Stealing is on the 19th. Yes, it is. So Caught Stealing is coming out on the 29th of August, and I've got a screening on the 19th. So I'll definitely have a reaction of Caught Stealing next episode. Subscribe wherever you're listening or watching, and at Fred Asquith on Film, TikTok, Instagram. Instagram's hit 10k. Really, really happy. Thank you for everyone who's already followed. If you're listening and not following, and you got this far in the episode, please go and fucking follow. Come on. You put the time in. All right. Thank you, guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.